So, ladies, welcome. I am very excited to be sitting outside of this building because this used to be the Cullen Park Hospital for the Insane. And it ran from 1878 to 2008. And the reason I come here is because today we're talking about intuition, and people were locked away for being intuitive. And so I thought, isn't that the greatest revenge, is to be sitting outside a mental health institution to be talking about the very thing people were locked away for. So first of all, welcome, and thank you for coming. There are common questions that people ask about intuition, but realistically, there are thousands of blogs and videos about the same, about the questions and about the answers. And you guys have too much of valuable knowledge. I want to get into the juicy and nitty and gritty stuff, but I know how people work. If we don't address them, they're going to be thinking about them. So we are going to do a quick session. It's called the quick fire session. So how are we going to do this? It's Catherine, I'll start with you, and then Maret with you. I've got 5 questions, 10 seconds. So you just give like 2 or 3 word answers, see how we go, and then we'll just nut those things out. So I thought we could do a bit of a practice run. So Catherine, what did you have for breakfast today?
I had a piece of toast.
Great. So that was easy enough. Maret, what's your favourite coffee?
I don't drink coffee.
Great. Well, you're obviously excellent at this game.
Or I very rarely drink coffee.
Okay. But see, now we don't need that extra bit, because how are you going to get into the 10 seconds, right? So, we would set a timer, but I trust you. 10 seconds. Okay. Let me find the page. I wrote the things down. Okay, Catherine, you're ready. Right. 5 questions, 10 seconds. Ready. And what is intuition?
It's the part of your nervous system that is your inner friend.
Great. Does everyone have intuition?
Absolutely.
Where do I feel my intuition?
Feel it?
Feel it.
You feel it it depends on your system. It depends on you.
Great. How do I know it's my intuition and not a big fart?
Well, because when you acknowledge it, it gets stronger and clearer. It doesn't just dissipate.
Is my intuition always right?
It's always right for you.
Right. Fantastic. You did really awesome. Same questions. Actually, you have the easier job because Catherine went first. So, Maret, what is intuition?
The still small voice within.
Where do I feel my intuition?
In my gut.
Does everyone have intuition?
Yes.
How do I know it's my intuition and not just a big fart?
Because I'm not thinking about it.
Is my intuition always right?
For me, yes.
Wow, well done. I think we've covered that. High five! Yeah, 5 for 5. So as I said, people were locked away here because they were intuitive. And I know that both of you actually have your own stories of suffering because you didn't follow your intuition. So Catherine, first of all, tell me your story.
Well, I was born into a family that was very, very left brain, very science. Like my father is actually a mathematician, and he was an academic. So it was all about that left brain learning, which is brilliant and has its uses. But
so the left brain is the logical brain.
Sorry, yes.
I just have to make that clear for myself because I always forget.
No, that's all right.
Yes.
Yeah. So your left brain is your analytical side. It's the side of your brain or your mind. I mean, it's just a term that we use to refer to the part of your mind that really likes facts and figures. Whereas your right brain is your more creative side, your more intuitive side.
Yeah. And you actually got sick because you weren't following your
exactly.
intuition.
I mean, because for me, I was very intuitive when I was very little. You know, I also had that left brain sort of love of facts, I suppose, or at least odd facts.
Yeah, cool.
But the thing is that you can't. I ended up shutting my intuition down because it was not really accepted in my family. It was a bit too weird. It was a bit too out there, and I did like what most kids do when a part of you is not really acceptable to those people who are important to you. You tend to shut it down. But with your intuition, it's such a big part of you that if you shut it down, you end up shutting down so much of yourself. That it impacted my immune system. And in the long run, I got quite ill, and so it was actually then in focusing on that illness and working to heal all of that I opened up my intuition again. So
amazing! What an incredible story.
Thanks.
Yeah, and Catherine was like, "Oh, yes, it is. Thank you." All right, you in the form that you sent through to me, I was so intrigued because you said you had been successful professionally, yet after 35 years of working, when you finally retired, you pretty much just broke down. Tell me about that.
Well, when I left work, I was so tired, I couldn't get up in the morning. I was just exhausted for 1 or 2 years. And I also started crying. So I had so much grief and I didn't know where it was coming from, because to the outside world and friends and family, I was successful, I was happy, I got on with everyone. Yet in my private world, there was all this grief. So I knew I needed to do something. It was not the life I wanted to continue leading. So I went on a journey of exploration.
So what was the grief about?
I think primarily that I, shut down my own truth, my own intuition. I wasn't prepared to speak my truth. I wasn't prepared to be who I am.
And it's so similar for both of you, shutting yourself down for someone else's benefit, or how you think you should be for someone else's benefit. And I think that happens so often where and even today, like, I still sometimes struggle to say what I want, because I think someone else, I don't know what I think. It's obviously fucked, but I don't want to go there. Just wait till this play goes over. This is the beautiful thing about being outside. So I really want to articulate, and Catherine, if I could pose this question to you, is what is emotional intelligence?
Okay, so I guess there's two sides to it. So one side is really being able to understand what your emotions are telling you. And actually, every single emotion, they're actually a little bit like a dream. It's your subconscious talking to you about what's really going on for you. So like with Maret, when she retired and she found all this grief coming up, well, if she just dismissed that or said, I'm just being silly, or I'm just really exhausted because of working so long, she wouldn't have got the message.
Yeah.
But to me, grief, it just means that there's something inside you that you're not complete with. And Maret, of course, she went and found what it is that she needed to get complete with. So that was an instance of emotional intelligence.
Did I say emotional intelligence?
You did say emotional intelligence.
Sorry.
I'm talking about that. And I was about to say that the other side of emotional intelligence is actually empathy.
No, I wanted to ask you. I was like, wow, that's really insightful.
Was that intuitive?
Intuitive intelligence. Let me wait for this plane. It's okay.
It is okay. But I'm going to answer the questions you asked me.
Yeah, no, you did. And I was like, it was obviously very relevant. What I wanted to ask was, What is intuitive intelligence? That's what I wanted to ask.
Okay, so yes, like we were saying that everyone has got intuition. However, for most people, it's untrained, it's unconscious, so it appears to be really random, really inconsistent. It's kind of cool when it happens, but there's almost like no way of telling when it does happen, and people are often very confused about whether it's their imagination or their intuition. So to me, just like any skill, intuitive intelligence is when it becomes conscious. When you know, when you get those intuitive feelings or impulses and you know how to interpret it reliably, and you actually understand what that impulse or that feeling is doing its best to communicate to you.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, well, because then of course that's when it becomes practical. You know, your intuition has practical benefits, and that's when you start to get what I call the everyday magic of intuition.
Exactly, and then making it not, the intelligence comes exactly like you were saying, when it's not the ad hoc thing where you're like, oh, that's, you know, that was pretty cool, where you can actually then intelligently use your intuition.
Yeah, and of course, with our society being so in love with science and technology, the thing about science and technology is that, you know, two of the standards is repeatability, predictability. So you know how it works, and you know pretty much what result you're going to get. And if you're not getting that result, well, there's something, you know, it's like when we were playing with the microphone before. It's like if it's not plugged in, well, obviously it's not going to work. Right. Well, you know, the same thing goes for your intuition. See, when it is worked on so that it becomes conscious, so we actually develop that intuitive intelligence, it becomes as reliable, as consistent as anything else.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And Maret, I know that you are working now on your own business to teach business leaders how to use their intuition in business. Is that right?
Well, you do that as well.
I do that as well.
I'm having a great morning. You're asking the right questions. Never mind that. We'll come back to that and you can tell us more about it. My real question is like, can intuitive intelligence lead to financial power?
Yes,
well,
is the short answer.
Yes, because you're combining your intuition with your logic. So what I saw in organisations is that people had to always pretend that everything they were doing was logical. The key performance indicators or the outcomes or tick the boxes. But yet what was really happening behind the scenes was that so many people were actually trusting their intuition, knowing the way forward and knowing how to maximise their dollar, you know, create their greatest profit, whether that was in services or dollar value. I believe it's essential. I just see in organisations when it's not there and not being used, it's just so there's something missing. It's so bland and vacant.
So that left brain, that analytical side of us, it knows, it works from what we know. So as I said, it works with facts and figures. So, you know, if your business is just doing the same thing every day, just, you know, filling out the same steps every day,
following the system
that is already in place, then your left brain is fine and you can just do all that logical stuff. But if you want your business to grow, particularly to grow beyond what your current reality is around about how much it can grow, if you want it to innovate, if you want it to be doing anything different to what it's doing today, well, that's actually what your intuition is for, is to navigate the unknown.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
The way I see it working is that knowing comes in. If you let yourself trust your knowing, your intuition, you can see things differently. You can see new opportunities or different ways of handling issues. And then logically, you can rely on some of your experience to work out how to move forward and ahead.
Yes, and I love that, because if we think of any of the massively successful people in the world, they must have relied on their intuition.
So the thing is that when we are going somewhere where we don't know, it's exactly the same thing as what your GPS does. It finds the destination and then it works back. Now, that's the way your intuition works. Like your left brain starts from where you are today and works forward because you know all the steps. But when you're going somewhere where you don't know, your intuition will leap to the destination that you want to get to and then work back to the present moment. And that's why we need both, because we need to be able to go forward and then track back and forward and then track back, because that is the way, like what Maret was saying, that we can have this fabulous sort of dream or goal or vision, but we need to use our logic to figure out each part of the process.
Yeah. So what I'm really interested in, Maret, and I'd like to pose this question to you particularly, how is having self-esteem essential to following your intuition?
I think it's critical. You need courage to follow your intuition, because you're often stepping out into something, doing something or saying something out of your comfort zone. And so the more self-esteem you have, the easier it is to do that. I heard Barry Gibb, of all people, from the Bee Gees say, and it really got me thinking. He was talking about self-confidence and the self-confidence, I think, of some of his, family. And then he said, but self-confidence is different. Yeah.
Totally right.
Self-confidence is different to self-esteem. And I thought, that is so true.
Oh, tell me, what's the difference?
Well, I think with self-confidence, if you know your skills, you can step out, you can perform, you can do what you do. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you're feeling the joy, the expansion, the beauty, the everything inside of you, that you can have a lot of self-confidence and people do a lot of powerful things, but their self-esteem is shot to pieces. Inside they're a scared little child, or they've never experienced what's it like to wake up with joy and feel the joy inside. That stuff that's inside you when you're really being true to yourself. And to me, that's self-esteem.
So confidence, once again, sounds external. Look at everything I've achieved, the skill I've got. And then would you say that self-esteem is more the internal, going, I am valuable because I am, not because of what I've achieved? What do you guys think?
Yeah, I would say that. I mean, to me, self-esteem and self-confidence, they're absolutely, obviously close, but to me, they're yin and yang. Like your self-esteem is the value that you feel, like, as Maret said, just because you are. Whereas your self-confidence is the value that because you know that what you're doing is of value. Now, of course, when we're really healthy inside and we have a good relationship with ourselves, those two things are just two sides of the same coin, because what we're doing is a natural expression of who we are. And, so the more that the stronger a connection we get with who we are, the clearer we are about what we want to do. And then because we're doing that in a really aligned way, that works better and that gives us more confidence. But it also tells us, again, something a bit more about who we actually are. So these things, they all work together, but only when it's all aligned.
So if we don't have self-esteem, so if we don't feel comfortable within ourselves, we don't know ourselves, then would we even trust our intuition?
Well, I think it actually even goes deeper than that. Because if you actually think about what is your intuition for, it's part of your inbuilt system. That's why everybody is intuitive. But its actual purpose I believe, and my experience is that what it is.
That's a disclaimer right there.
Well, I mean,
Other
people are going to maybe disagree with me on this, but when you look at it neurologically as well as energetically and every other way, your intuition. See, we are meant to work as what in science speak they call a self-referencing system. In other words, we each have our own unique pattern, our own essence, our own way of doing things. And the more that we operate in a way that's in alignment with that, the stronger our system becomes.
Yes.
And the more effective we become, the clearer everything becomes, the more satisfying and joyful everything becomes. And your intuition is that part of you that is there to tell you, if you do it that way, it's in alignment with your pattern, with your system. If you do it that way, well, it's not so much, so that may not work out for you, even if it seems to be like a good idea.
Yeah, and I'm interested, Maret. Thank you for that explanation, because that made really a lot of sense to me.
Cool.
For your healing, you went through a lot of healing, and I know you worked with Catherine and Frackology. How did that translate for you? Tell me a little bit about how you healed your self-esteem that then allowed you to listen to your intuition more.
Part of it was learning to trust myself. Big part of it was learning to find clarity, because I had a kind of cloud around me where I could block off my own truth and intuition. So needing to clear that and have clarity and certainty. And there are many practices in Frackology for ways of the emotions that come in the way, that get in the way, that are really triggered by past events. You're in the present moment, something happens, but it takes you back to the way you reacted when years ago, do you know? So those emotions that come up that aren't helpful, learning ways to actually master those, really. So it was on all levels, learning emotional mastery, learning to get clarity in my mind, mental clarity, so I could open. There are various techniques through particularly Frackology I've learned to really be open to my truth and more open to my intuition. Physically, to have what's around me, even the way I dress, the colours, to all be aligned physically.
Uh-huh.
I'm still learning that one. And spiritually, what is my higher self? What is my soul? Where is that resonance? How do I tune into that? And that was like the North Star for me. So as long as I was aligned to that, following that star, following that resonance, feeling that feeling of, it's indescribable, it's so extraordinary, but it's also so ordinary, because it is me. It's very ordinary. So learning, though, that, it was just so wonderful to really learn to be in that alignment and attunement that could guide me and help my journey, and learning about trust and clarity and all those other things automatically will improve my self-esteem.
Wow, and look at you, you're shining.
Thank you.
Shocking. I guess I'm wearing my sunglasses.
Oh, you say the sweetest things.
So, Catherine.
So, Petra.
This is obviously a question for you.
Okay, bring it on.
We so often ask questions, if we are feeling stuck, if we are feeling unfulfilled, we often just ask the universe for questions, or we ask them for answers. And our intuition does bring an influx of answers to us, right?
Yeah.
But then we don't listen.
Yeah.
How then do we learn to listen to those answers that will help us transform or redirect our life?
Okay. So that's actually a pretty big question, insofar as the more that you understand about the way intuition works, the more clearly you understand that. So perhaps I should say, well, go and read my book, The Soul's Brain.
Yes.
However, see, that the problem is that when people talk about growth, okay, because that's why your intuition is trying to give you these answers, because you're wanting to grow, you're wanting to achieve new things, you're wanting to expand, have more abundance, all this cool stuff. And your intuition is there to help you do that. However, when people talk about growth, there's all sorts of things that they say that we need. A little bit of discipline, a little bit of courage, a little bit of self-love, all this kind of thing, the ability to delay gratification, all of those things. And they're all true. But I would say, to me, the one thing that will pretty much determine whether you grow or not is the ability to tell the difference between good pain and bad pain. Because, before everybody freaks out, let me explain that.
People hear pain, and immediately I can even feel myself going, I don't know if I like this.
Yes, but see, this is why we ignore our intuition. Because even growth, even positive change is a change. And that's uncomfortable. So, see, like physically, it's a little bit easier for us to understand it, because bad pain is like hot or sharp pain. Like if you feel that, it's like stop. You've pushed your body too far. But when you get that sort of that achy stretch feeling, that's just that you're getting a good stretch, but it's still a little uncomfortable. So one of the most important things is to understand that with your intuition, you want to actually focus not on just where you want to go to, but you want to actually find your way of getting there. So we need to grow, absolutely, but we don't need to grow today, we don't have to get there today or tomorrow. We need to nurture ourselves into that growth, not try to beat ourselves into that growth.
Yes, and Maret, I want to come back to your story there, because I interviewed Robin a couple of days ago, and we were talking about progress, right? And we were saying that it's interesting, we live in a society that's always looking for progress, for moving forward, but something like intuition is not moving forward, it's moving in. Did you find that with your healing journey, that because in your working environment you had been moving forward, it was tapping back into intuition and finding your own truth? Was it, instead of moving forward, do you think it was a journey of moving in?
While I was going through that journey moving forward,
Yes.
I'm just wondering.
Yeah, interesting. Now,
clarifying your question.
You see, now this is interesting, right? So now I'm glad, because now this is where I think the confusion comes in, because we are constantly told to strive. Strive. Exactly like you were saying, Catherine, going
what
from
success
here,
is.
going to there, right?
Yeah.
2 points. But I wonder once again if we are looking outside of ourselves, so that instead of progressing forward, we progress in, and we look at what's happening within us that's causing the disease.
Whether we need to do that.
Yeah, do you think so?
Oh, absolutely.
Well, was that part of your journey? Did you have to come in first to be able to move forward externally?
Absolutely, yes.
Yes. Yeah.
And the other thing I've noticed about intuition with a lot of people is that they're actually aware they've had something intuitive has happened. They've had an intuitive thought, but then they don't trust it.
Yeah.
So they haven't learned to differentiate between that intuitive thought has just popped in that's telling me what to do or where to go or what the answer is, but they haven't differentiated from their body emotional reaction or their mind thoughts, storytelling, telling them why it won't work, or that this isn't a good idea, or they haven't differentiated between the intuitive thought that pops in and their emotional reaction to it, or the thought processes that they start putting in place.
And once again, and this is now getting a bit juicier, and I want to take people with us on this journey, is that we are living in the known. Like, most of us are not living in the present, which is the unknown. We are constantly living in the past from our past emotional experiences. Like you were saying, you were triggered and it was generated, or the possibility of a future, of how we think it might look. But very few of us sit in the unknown of the present and truly being present, so that when those emotions do come up, we are present enough not to be reactive to them, to go, I am the observer of my emotion, what's going on here, and then responding to that. How do we get to that stage?
Well, for me, you were talking before about, like, we're asking the universe questions. The fundamental and simplest difference is in the nature of that question that we ask. Because so much of the time we ask ourselves, is this right or wrong? And that tends to either stop us or keep us stuck to what we know, because if something's going to be right, it has to be something that we already know. Because if we don't know it, how do we know if it's right or wrong?
Oh, my goodness, totally. That's so true.
Right. So asking, is this right or wrong, is actually not a useful question. Asking, is this me? Is this going to make me more me? Is this going to help me strengthen my connection to who I really am? Is this going to help me express myself in a more satisfying, more juicier way? Because, and that's what your intuition is for. Your intuition is always trying to tell you how to make a stronger Petra, how to make a more brilliant Petra, how to make a more clear-sighted Maret.
Yes.
So that question, is this me? That question really works. And so what Maret was talking about, sort of like making that distinction. See, I think one of the tricky things is, and particularly in our society today, which is so noisy and there's so many things that are trying to grab our attention, is that when our system is all completely aligned, which is what our intuition is attempting to get everything in alignment, then it's like our energy and everything that we do is, there's a saying about still waters run deep. Like, it's just like that river where it's flowing really quickly, but everything's aligned, so it almost looks like it isn't doing anything. And whereas when you have white water, when the water's going over rocks and stuff, there's all this froth and bubble going on. But actually, a lot of energy there is actually being wasted.
Yes.
And that's the difference. So we waste energy telling ourselves, oh, I don't know, that could be wrong. Oh, what will so and so think about that? La la la, whatever. But when we just go, no, I can feel that. That is the me thing to do. Well, then I'm going to do it.
And it's easy. I have found with this talk show, for example, I'm so in the flow. Like, things are just happening so easily for me. I suppose it feels effortless because it's inspired action. And also, it's just flowing. Like, there's no efforting, right? And so I really feel that life is meant to be easy. But once again, not chores. Work hard. Work hard. The tough, those things, right?
Yeah, well, because often when we're not doing the Petra thing or the Maret thing or the Catherine thing, it means that we're doing someone else's thing.
Yes.
And that might actually be what they want us to be doing.
And it's exhausting.
And it is exhausting.
It is exhausting.
Because then we're actually doing it, and they're the ones who are going to be getting the juice out of it. We're not. But with, in time, like, we need to learn to line up our own flow. There's our old saying about go with the flow. Absolutely. But choose your flow first.
Yes.
Whose flow?
Whose flow?
Whose flow?
Whose flow? And I'm interested, Maret, what techniques did you use to get into your flow or identify your flow?
Doing things that I'm passionate about rather than I think I should, or that I should endure,
Endure.
Endure.
That's a good word, though, right?
A lot of people do that.
Yes, I do it heaps sometimes. Working in corporate, I endure it a lot.
And basically becoming still and centered. I have quite an ability to be centered, so if I allow myself to not let my fear rule me, but allow myself to get centered and open up more to myself and my higher self.
How do you do
and
that?
that
Do you
flow.
meditate? Do you go out in nature? Do you stand in your head and sing Kumbaya, my lord?
Well, a specific technique that, if you want a specific
Yes,
technique,
that'd be amazing.
I have meditated and I have done all those things.
Yes.
I've been to
I don't
therapy.
know about standing on your head.
Oh, no, I haven't. I've stood on my shoulders, but not my head. I've been to therapy. I've done all those things. They've all helped me.
Yes.
But the thing that's really got me into alignment is something that in fractology we call soul seat.
Yes, okay.
So it's an energetic center or muscle or center where you can actually, it's focus and intention. So it's having the focus and the intention to be in that place, in that energetic area where we can connect to our soul memory and know what that feels like. And when it is feeling that resonance that we know is uniquely me, because I've practiced feeling that for so long,
yes.
I can then find my way forward and be much more open to my intuition.
And the dog agrees.
I hope so.
He's like, yeah, that sounds amazing.
Or is saying, yes, well, I don't know how you don't know that.
I know. You stupid humans.
Humans.
You're smart, at the top of the food chain. And that's so exciting. And so fractology is such a big space. I don't want to go into it in this interview,
Sure.
but of course, both of you do fractology. And, you know, we'll put the links on because I really want people to look into it because that to me sounds amazing. But yet I can just imagine people watching this going, that sounds so woo-woo to me. Like, you know, soul and stillness. And they're like, what are you talking about? I'm running a successful business. I've got my family. Where will I find this soul thing? And yet it is possible. And
it's not only possible. I mean, yes, because we are so well trained, as we were talking about, to do the things that other people want us to do, the things that are right or that are expected or whatever, that it does sound woo-woo, but that's only because people aren't used to it. Because all of these things, as I said, they're part of your system. The soul seat is actually, it's just here. It's over a point in your body that is something called the thymus, which is part of your immune system. So, and if you think about what your immune system does, your immune system is just there so that it knows, well, that bit there, that belongs to Petra, so I will look after that. That bit doesn't belong to Petra, I better get rid of it. So it's actually just learning to tap into these things consciously. And as for business, one of the things about your intuition, as I said, it's about that flow that looks really quiet, but actually what it is, it's incredibly efficient, because it means that everything is aligned to that point that you're wanting to go to. Like, for example, in business, they talk about synergy.
Yes, they do.
They do. And they talk about synergy as if it's this magic, mysterious thing, because they don't know how to reliably produce it time and time again.
Yeah.
But once you really start to understand the way your right brain or your intuition works, that is actually what synergy is. It's one of the applications of that kind of thinking. So it is highly practical.
It is highly practical,
Yeah.
and also they call it flow often. They call it being in your flow.
It's in the flow.
And research has shown time and time again how when you're in your flow, everything.
But they don't teach you how to do it.
How to do it, I know.
And can I just say that when I explain to clients that getting in touch with your true self, you're not creating your true self. So everything exists. You're just simply learning to get the blocks out of the way. So it's not some hard task of having to create this energy of your true self. It already exists.
Yes.
It's there.
And that's what they say, finding yourself.
Yeah.
Like it's or rediscovering yourself. You're actually not finding yourself. You're rediscovering what was always here. You've always
It's always
been here.
there. It's always
You know,
there.
it's just like coming back to what's within and coming back to this. And I love that because it's, once again, and that's where I think I was going with that progress question.
Okay, go.
Now that I think about it.
See, that's how intuition works. You always get to where you're going, but sometimes the path there is quite surprising.
I love that. That's such a cool thing. You agree, baby. Catherine, you have written a phenomenal book, and what I really like about it is that it really does combine the intuition and the logic.
Yes.
And which really helps us practically. That moves it from the woo-woo to the, yes, I can see how this can work in my everyday life. So tell us a little bit more about the book.
Okay, so people may be aware that over the last few years, there's a growing interest in intuition. They are talking about it more in businesses, in the mainstream. It isn't really such a woo-woo topic anymore. The trick is that most people don't know how to do it.
And that's what we just said before.
Yes, exactly.
They tell you use it, but no one tells you how to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, of course not, because our left brain, our 1 + 1 = 2 brain, we spent 12 years at school, however many years at uni, whatever, learning, like training that brain so that we could read and write and do that basic analytical stuff. How many of us have actually done any training with our right brain whatsoever? Well, and a lot of that is because we haven't really understood how it works.
Yeah.
So people who had a little bit of natural aptitude in that area, whether it was through creative stuff like being an artist or something, or they had a little bit of natural aptitude for intuition because they were a natural woo kind of thing. They may have sort of trained it by practice, by experiencing it. But it's like music was 300 years or so ago. People then thought it was this mysterious gift that you were either born with or you could never develop. Now, sure, if you ever heard me sing, you'd understand. Well, we don't all have a natural aptitude, but we can, if we have an interest in that, if we want to, we can go and develop some of that skill.
Yes.
Intuition is just the same. It's part of your natural system. But once we understand the principles of it, we can all learn to do some of that. And as we were talking about, it has such practical benefits for innovation, problem solving, finding the most efficient path to your goal, all of those things, and making sure, of course, that you're living a life of personal satisfaction. And that's everything that's in my book.
And I think that's the key piece, is that fulfillment piece, because you can be so successful, but really, if you are that turbulent river inside, forget it. And I found that I did find the book really practical and really useful, useful to grab onto, integrate into my life. It wasn't something I had to change. I didn't have to go and meditate for 6 hours. It was really something, you know how they go, to create change, you have to do all this additional stuff, which I think in life is not realistic. It's something that has to be able to be integrated into what I'm already doing.
Yeah. Well,
it's doing it differently.
Yes.
It's just, that old saying, if you keep doing what you've always done, you'll always get. So, if you've got that lack of fulfillment or a bit of anxiety or depression or whatever it is, it really means you just simply do certain things a bit differently.
Now, Marets, I have to, first of all, share that you're 70 years old. This is what tuition looks like. Just putting it out there, right? And And you're just glowing, like positively glowing.
Thank you.
And you have now just started your own business. Tell us more about that.
Well, I've graduated as a fractology practitioner. I also do shamanic healing, life mentoring, group facilitation. I've done that for many years, and it's been a huge change for me because I've always worked in organisations. So I've now set up my own business. I have a practice room at home, and yes, I see clients and I do a little bit of facilitation in organisations.
So what do you help clients with?
Whatever they come to me for. It's things like anxiety or depression, or being unbelievably clever, but I don't think I allow myself to feel emotions, or wanting to open up to their intuition, or basically feeling a bit miserable in life and not understanding why, and wanting to find that elusive joy.
So, to finish off, we are going to play a little game. Okay. So, the game is called Intuition or Fart. Okay. So if it's intuition, you put up the sign. If you think it's fart, you right? We good?
Yes.
Right, so I'm going to ask you some questions.
So what if we both put up a sign?
Doesn't matter. So
it's what you think. It's
okay.
It's what you think. That's
So-
an I.
Oh, this is intuition.
Yes. If
Oh,
you think
okay.
it's a fart, you just go, like what I do. You just
okay.
go,
If you think it's intuition, then you think it's
Okay.
a fart. Okay. Let me find the questions. Once again, amongst all these amazing things. Okay. First one. A sexy man catches my eye. And I look away, even though I find him attractive. Is that using my intuition, or is that just being farty?
it's kind
A bit of both.
It's kind of both. It's like you can be attracted just from pure, hormones.
Yeah.
And often that is that initial pull. And look, we all have a type.
Catherine, choose one.
Well, for me, I'd say it was this.
Okay.
Someone else, I'd have to.
Oh, fine. Okay, great.
That's playing a game, isn't it?
Yeah.
Called playing a game.
My children want to go to a birthday party, and I know that I need some time for myself. Is that my intuition speaking, or is that just a fart?
Well, I think that's just common sense, though.
What do you think, Maret?
We all need time for ourselves with that.
You
Yeah.
have to put up the sign if you think it's intuition.
Well,
No, your sign.
closer to that than...
A fart.
Yeah.
But you don't feel
We all
comfortable
need time for
farting?
ourselves because otherwise sometimes it can get hard to hear this.
Next question, Catherine.
All right, sorry. I'm not very good at this game.
Okay, so if you think it's intuition, you just put up the sign. If you think
I
it's
get
fart,
the
you put-
rules.
No, I took it to Marets.
The problem is that the answer to every question is it depends.
Yeah, exactly. Let's just whatever go with your intuition.
Okay.
Yeah. I meet a friend's boyfriend and he gives me the creeps. Wow, that's a definite. I'm hanging out on the beach with a friend and I have a nagging feeling to go home and finish a project. That's awesome.
It depends, doesn't it?
Yeah. The last piece of chocolate cake is calling me. Even though I know sugar makes me crash.
Yeah.
Do that again? That's better.
You need practice doing.
I do. I have
Yeah,
not
you
practiced
do.
that. I have not practiced that.
I want to change careers and I think of all the reasons I can't.
Well, wanting to change careers is probably this, but thinking of all the reasons you can't is.
Oh, yeah. I agree.
Last one, thank goodness. I want to follow my interests because they give me joy.
Oh.
but I feel guilty and selfish.
Well, the same thing. Wanting to follow them is this. But,
Intuition.
yeah, wanting to
Yes.
follow them is
Yeah.
that. But the guilt is like,
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what stops us.
yeah, and so that is often the problem. We do often fart on our intuition.
Well said, Catherine. Well said.
Ladies, it was so much fun. I have really enjoyed the discussion. So juicy and meaty, and really so relevant to what we're going through. So I really want to thank you both for sharing your beautiful knowledge, for so open-heartedly. It was such an open-hearted discussion.
You're sweet.
Even though we're sweating buckets. I mean, thank you so much, guys.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you, Petra.
Yeah,
it was delightful.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.